Hi everyone. This is what happened to me when I got government housing part 82. So on the 30th of the 10th, 2017, I received a letter from VCAT saying that I had a hearing on the 6th of the 11th, 2017. So I had to print out photos and documents for that hearing because the ones that I had already printed out had been submitted to the court and I wasn't going to get them back. It's hard to describe how I felt at that time, but I'm sure everyone who has been following my story this whole time can imagine. I was exhausted and I knew deep down that I wasn't going to get help, and going to VCAT wasn't going to be a good experience for me, but I still had to do it. There was nothing in my life at that time that I enjoyed doing. I had no pleasure, no peace, and no comfort. I was constantly judged for my circumstances, and I was expected to behave as though none of this had happened to me, but it had. I hadn't seen the respondent hanging around the block for a while, and I was relieved because I was so exhausted and worn down from everything. And I was suffering from a really bad cold at that time. Simple chores would wear me out, and I had no idea what the real state of my health was because I wasn't seeing a doctor. I needed time to rest, and I needed help with all the legal issues I had to deal with, but I didn't have a lawyer, so I had to do all of it on my own. Then on the 4th of the 11th, 2017, I discovered that the house opposite my backyard was going to be demolished, and I was beside myself. In theory, the idea of a house in my area being demolished wouldn't be such a big deal, but this wasn't theory, it was reality, and it was the house right next to me. And it was going to be violent, and it was going to be noisy, and it was going to go on and on and on. Because after they demolished the house, they would have to rebuild a new property. I just wanted peace and quiet, and I couldn't stand the thought of seeing the house being demolished. I felt scared of seeing it being demolished, and I felt like it was happening to me. But at the same time, I knew it wasn't. Around that time, there were other things happening as well. I noticed that a woman who lived in my block, in a unit near me, was actually stalking me, and I caught her following me around in the city on a few occasions. And at that time, I just assumed she was stalking me on behalf of the respondent. But the truth is that there could have been anything behind it, and I never found out why she was doing it. And obviously, I didn't bother speaking to the police about it because of the way they had treated me. On the 5th of the 11th, 2017, I did some washing and hung it out to dry and then took a photo of it. I was still thinking that the respondent might come back to the block and do something to my washing, and I wanted to make sure that I had evidence if he did. By this stage, I had forgotten about most things in my life, except the upcoming court hearings and the things I needed to do to gather evidence for those hearings and protect our family. I stopped wearing makeup, I wasn't grooming myself properly, and I wasn't eating properly. I took some photos of some broken glass which was embedded in the mat outside my door, and I intended to ask for compensation for the mat because I would have to replace it. Then on the 6th of the 11th, 2017, I attended VCAT in Preston for the hearing for my application to have the rubbish in my side yard removed and to ask for compensation for everything that I had suffered as a consequence of having that rubbish in my side yard. My daughter had a no pupil day at her school, so I had to bring her down to VCAT with me. The housing officer from the Department of Housing was in attendance at the hearing, and she was arguing against my application to have the rubbish removed, and I don't know why. It would have been good if they had attended and said that they agreed to have it removed, but that's not what was happening. The VCAT member said that they believed that the rubbish was not put there by me, which was a huge relief, but for some reason they adjourned the hearing to the 20th of November 2017 to give the Director of Housing the opportunity to assess the rubbish in my side yard. And this is despite the fact that I had provided photos of it to everyone. This adjournment was another painful delay for me, dragging it out even longer, and it was agonizing and I hated it. But like always, there was nothing I could do about it.